So we're just talking quickly about functions today. We're on page 59 in our pink math journal. Shh. Thank you for being a good listener. We talked about the word generate, meaning to make or create. I can generate a number pattern that follows a given rule. We also defined the word function on page 60 as a rule that defines a relationship between two variables. Okay? A lot of times when we talk about functions or rules, we use an input-output table. So we're looking at the input-output table on page 59 in our pink math journal. Okay? So on our red math notebook, we're going to write today's date, which is January 11th, 2022. And we're going to label it functions. And then we're going to put page 59 math journal so that we know where this comes from. So the function or the rule on page 59 is, we'll write function y equals 3x plus 5. So we talked about in our note taking that 3x means 3 times x. So if x is equal to 5, then we just plug it in and we follow the rule. So now we would go with y equals 3 times 5, because 3x means 3 times x, and it just told us that x is 5, plus 5. Okay, we know we do what's in parentheses first. So what is 3 times 5? 15. And really, when you're talking about equations, functions, you should rewrite each line of work so that when someone is looking at your work or when you have to look back, you have a systematic approach and you can look at each line to see where you might have made a mistake or if it's correct. Okay, I know these are easy and most of you can do that in your head, if not all of you. You could have said, oh, well, that's 20. But this is practicing for when they get a little bit harder. And here in a minute, when we do the reverse, it is a tad harder. Okay? So here, y is equal to what? 20. So if x is 5, then y is equal to 20. Because the function or the rule defining the relationship between x and y is that y is equal to 3x plus 5. Okay? So over here we put 20 on our output table. Now the next one says, what if x is 6? Skip a line. And now x is 6. Okay? So over here we just write it out. Y is equal to 3 times 6 plus 5. Okay? You have to do each line of work. Raise your hand if you can already tell me what y is equal to. Okay, we all can. 18 plus 5, 23, right? But we have to show each line of work. So y is equal to 18 plus 5, and then y is equal to 23. Yeah, and then everyone try the next one on your own. Y is equal to 7. Make sure that you show each step. You have to give each step its own line. I meant to put x, thank you. X is equal to 7. I know you know what it is, but I need to see 3 lines. One like this, one with the first step down, and one with the value. What? So you just have to substitute the x for 7. Okay? So it's y is equal to 3 times 7 plus 5. Because 3x means 3 times x. If you're raising your hand, don't raise your hand unless you have a question. If you think you have it, just put your hand down here in just a second. I'm going to go over it. Okay. So, here you would do, what's the first line of work? What should I put here? Look up here what we did. What do I do down here? Jameson.
Y equals 3 times 7 plus 5.
Okay. What should my second line say? Abby.
Y equals 21 plus 5.
And then my third line should say, Noah. Okay. All right. Pretty easy. Now, let's talk about if we know what the y is. Now, that's our output number. So that's what the rule is going to equal. So now we know that the y is 35. Yes, sir. Do you know what x is? Okay. So now we're going to reverse it. So now we're going to say 35, okay, because now we know the y. Okay, we know that 35 is equal to 3x plus 5. So it says now we reverse it. So it's time to think about inverse operations. So our first step, our last step before was to add 5. What is the opposite or inverse or reverse of adding 5? Gary? Subtracting 5. So now our first step is to subtract 5. And you actually write that like this. So 5 minus 5 is 0. We don't put anything. So now that just leaves the 3x by itself is equal to 30. Now, this means 3 times x. What is the opposite of multiplying by 3? Dividing by 3. We know that we can do this. We know that division bar means divided by, right? So 3 divided by 3 is 1, or 1x, which is just the same as x. What is 30 divided by 3? 10. Now, you can plug it back in there to check your work. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 5 is 35. Okay, it's kind of like a puzzle. I mean, it's kind of fun, I think. Okay, so let's do another one where we know y. So this one, x is 10, y is 35. Now we have 41. Okay, so turn your page if you need to. If y is 41, then we just need to fill in 41 equals 3x plus 5. What's our first step? What's our first step? Every hand should be up. If you don't know the first step, then you should be looking back here. What did we do first? It's the same function. Marin. Subtract 5. So we subtract 5, we subtract 5. That leaves us with 0, which we do not need to write down, plus 0. That means nothing. So we just put 3x equals, what's 41 minus 5? 36. Now we do what?
Divide.
Divide by 3. The opposite of 3 times x is x divided by 3. So we divide that by 3, which leaves us with 1x. You just write x. You don't say 1x. And then what is 36 divided by 3?
12.
Rowan, 12. So if y is 41, then our x is 12. Let's do the next one by ourselves. It's a pretty easy one. It's y is 14. Look at your examples above. Okay, if you think you have what x is equal to here, raise your hand.